we are going to start our class. So in the last class, we had discussed about the two texts of our Abhidhamma Pitaka. We have also already discussed about the two texts, Dhammasangani and Vibhanga. If you remember that we had already discussed that Dhammasangani is the basic text or Mool Pakarana of Abhidhamma Pitaka. Because in this text, there are the four reals, Chitta Chaitya Rup Nibbana, which have been discussed in a very detailed manner in 4 chapters. Then we had discussed about the second text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, that is called as Vibhanga. Vibhanga Pakarana, we had seen that Vibhanga means analysis. So analysis of the four reals, Chitta Chaitya Rup Nibbana, they have been discussed in a very 18 chapters. There are 18 chapters. And in our last class, we had discussed about the 18 Vibhangas in a very brief manner. It is not possible to discuss all the subject matter which are available in the 18th chapter, but in a very brief manner, we had discussed that how the four reals, Chit, Chesik, Rup, Nibbana, they have been analyzed in 18 Vibhangas. And we had also seen that here Vibhanga is in the sense of making the divisions in different ways, like Panchakhand, Dwadas Ayatana, 18 Dhatu, Sacha Vibhanga, Pate Samuchpad Vibhanga, Indriya Vibhanga, Apamaya Vibhanga, then Dhammahaday Vibhanga, then Sati Patthana Vibhanga, Sati Vibhanga, and then Jhana Vibhanga. So we had discussed in a very brief manner. Today we are going to discuss the third text of Abhidhamma Pitaka. The third text of Abhidhamma Pitaka is called as Dhatu Katha. There are two terms here, Dhatu and Katha. Dhatu, we have already discussed that there are 18 types of Dhatus. Here, Dhatus are elements. We have also seen that there are 6 senses, Chakhu, Sot, Ghan, Jihva, Kai, and Mana. And there are 6 ayatanas also, namely Chakha ayatan, Sota ayatan, Ghana ayatan, Jihva ayatan, Kaya ayatan, and Mana ayatan. Then we had also discussed about that there are 6 kinds of Vijnanas, namely Chakhu Vijnan, Sot Vijnan, Ghan Vijnan, Jihva Vijnan, Kai Vijnan, and Mano Vijnan. So altogether there are 18 kinds of dhatus. So here Chitta Chaitya Rup Nibbana, they have been analyzed here on the basis of the 18 types of elements. In the Vibhanga also we had discussed about the Panchakandhas, then Dwadas Ayatan and Ayatan also we had discussed, but here the discourses, Dhatu and Katha. Katha means discourses which are related with the 18 kinds of especially elements. So how the Chitta Chaitya Rup Nibbana, they have been analyzed on the basis of the 18 types of elements. It has been discussed. There are altogether 14 chapters in Dhatu Katha. And there are so many definitions of the dhatu here also, that dhatus are so today it is not possible. I have already given to you the reading materials. If you can go through the reading material, you can see that how we have already discussed about all these texts. So today I have not brought this is another device which I am talking about to you. But if you go through the reading material, which I have already given to you also, so you can go through it. So there are 18 types of elements, and there are 10 types of our there are 14 chapters in Dhatu Katha, and there are so many definitions of the dhatu also. Here, dhatus are in the sense of ya, that is the repeated existence, that the discourses which take a being from the process of repeated existence to the state of eternal bliss. This is called as dhatu katha. So dhatu katha have been discussed in a very detailed manner in our text, and there are 40 chapters here, and there are sangaho, asangaho on the basis of enumerations, and there are non-enumerations of the Dhammas, namely Chitta, Chetsik, and Rup Nibbana. They have been discussed in detailed manner here. So here there are so many things which have been discussed here, and dhatus are in the also sense, and some of the scholars like Yana Tilok, he also considers that the name of this text, Dhatu Katha, should be Khand Ayatan Dhatu Vibhanga. So this type of suggestions has been given by our Reverend Yani Tilok, who has translated the text in English, and it has been published by Pali Text Society. So this has been discussed in a very detailed manner. And here it is also said that the four reals, Chit, Chesik, Rup, Nibbana, these are the ultimate realities. They are taking a being from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss. In that sense, it is called as abode of the human beings, because these Chit, Chesik, Rup, Nibbana, which have been analyzed on the basis of the 18 types of elements, they are taking a being from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss, nibbana. So these have been discussed in a very detailed manner, and this is also called that this going through all these courses of the dhatu katha, a person can be also liberated from the state of a state of repeated existence, bhauchak parampara, or process of repeated existence. So in that sense, it has been said in a very detailed manner in this text, and it has been said. So there are 14 chapters here also, and there are some of the scholars who are also saying that here dhatus are in the sense of own nature. Own nature means that is the swabhav, that how these four reals, Chit, Chaisik, Rup, Nibbana, they are taking own nature. And we also know that the nature of the real things is that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. So this is the concept which have been discussed in our text. So here in the 14th chapter, these have been discussed in a very detailed manner, especially with the help of the 18 elements. The four reals have been analyzed in a very detailed manner. So here there are matikas also. We have also seen in the case of Dhammasangani that matikas are angles, visions, or thoughts, or the ideas through which the four reals have been analyzed or they have been developed. So here Matika, with the help of 22 Tik Matika, 100 Duk Matika, and 42 Sutant Matikas, these Dhatu Kathas have been explained with the help of our 18 types of elements. Then next text is called as Puggal Payati. Here Puggal Payati, this is the fourth text. But if you go through the style and writing of the language of this text, then it is very close to our Nikayas. Some of the scholars are of the opinion that out of the 7 texts, this text, Puggal Payati, is very ancient one, because the style of writing of the language, which is the Pali language which has been used in this text, which is very archaic, and they are very much close to the language of Nikayas, namely Dignikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Sanjukta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya. And in this sense, scholars are of the opinion that Puggal Panyati must be the first book of Abhidhamma Pitaka. But Dhammasangani discusses about first of all, the four reals in the four chapters, which we have already discussed, and that is why it is called as a basic text of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So in that sense, it is called as our very ancient one, because the language and the style of writing this text is very much ancient one. If you go through the two terms, Puggal and Panyati, Puggal means that is the person, but here it is in the sense of soul also. And Panyati means designations, notions. The exact English translation of the Puggal Panyati has been done by our English Western scholars as a designations of the human types. So Puggal here is in the sense of a person. So there are altogether 329 types of persons which have been explained in the Puggal Panyati. There are altogether 10 chapters in Puggal Panyati. Here Panyati is a Pragyapana, that is the designations of persons. Here Puggal, let us discuss that how there is a concept of Puggal in Buddhism also. In Buddhism, there is no any concept of permanent entity. That is why in Milinda Pahiyu, in the second chapter, Lakhan Pahiyu, it is said that there is no permanent entity in the personality of a human being. It is said that na het puggalo pulabti, that there is no permanent entity. Sankha samaya payati boharo namutam jadidam nagseno surseno birseno siyaseno ti. For the sake of calling any persons, we call as a Nagsen, Sursen, Birsen, Sihasen, etc. And an example has been given that Jathahi ang sambhara hoti saddoroth hoti, evam khandesu hoti sattoti samutti. Just like the parts of the chariot make the name of the chariot, in the same manner, the khandhas, which are 5 in number, namely Rupa Khand, Vedana Khand, Sanya Khand, Sankhar Khand, and Bhyan Khand, they are making a name of the person, that he is Wajir, he is Sasidhar, and other things. So for the sake of calling any persons, we name it Nagsen, Sursen, Birsen, Sihasen, whatever it is. But there is no permanent entity in the personality of a being. In Hinduism, there is a permanent entity in the or permanent soul in the personality of a human being. There is a concept of Atma, but here there is no Atma. There is no concept of the soul. That is why it is called as Sabbe Dhamma Anattati Jadai Payai Passati Arth Nibanditi Dukhe Samaggo Visuddhiya. That all things are subject to soul, that all Dhammas are subject to soulless. There is no any concept of soul. And if a person knows things in that sense, all the sufferings are being ceased and he is able to get a state of eternal bliss. So here there is a concept of how there is a designations, how a person can know about the 329 types of persons in our Buddhism. So on the basis of Puggal Panyati, all the human personalities have been discussed. There are some of the persons who are called as associated with the Saddha, Sati, Samadhi, or Briya, a person who is also called as Briyava, that he is more energetic. He is Atape, he is sagacious also. This is the quality of a person. So in that way, he is called as, and a person who has the great faith in the three sarana, namely Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So he is called as Saddha, Upito. So one who is associated with the faith. So in that sense, there are 327 types of personalities which have been discussed. But here, there is no any concept of the soul or personality or permanent entity in the personality of a being. In Hinduism, there is a concept of permanent entity we have also seen, and it is also called that this soul does not die. Whenever a person dies, this soul takes another being, and it is nanam shindanti, nanam dati pavakam, na kalajchapo, na society maruta. That weapon cannot cut it, water cannot drench it, fire cannot burn it, air cannot dry it. So this is the quality of our soul in the Hinduism traditions. But here there is no any concept of this like that. Again, in the Gita, we are having that how it has been said by the Lord Krishna that Bansasi Jarnani Vastrani, just like the clothes are torn and they become or not able to own, so they are replaced by another clothes by our human beings. So in that sense, it has been said that Atma or the soul are eternal, and body and the soul are the same, and they, after the death of a person, this soul takes another body based upon the resultant of the moral and immoral actions. So this is the concept of Hinduism. But here, what we are discussing in Pugal Payati, there are altogether 329 types of personalities. Like in Buddhism, we are having Puthujana, Sekha, Asekha, Arahat, Sagdagami, Anagami, Sotapana, Arhat. There are Mag stage also. So altogether, what are the qualities of these types of human personalities? They have been discussed in this text in a very detailed manner. And with the help of four reals, Chitta Chetsik and Rupa Nibbana, these our 329 types of personalities, they have been explained in the 10 chapters, and there are beautiful expositions or beautiful examples of this text which have been given in this text. The language of this text is very mixed. Sometimes there are prose sections and sometimes there are verses also. And in the Sutta Pitaka also we are having some of the personalities which have been discussed in the Dik Nikaya or in Sanjukta Nikaya or Anguttar Nikaya. But here there are, it has been said in a very detailed manner. Again, the four reals that is, which are Chitta Chetsik Rup Nibbana, they have been analyzed here with the help of 329 types of personalities. So this is the concept. We should not get confused with the permanent entity in the personality of a being, because Buddhism does not believe in the permanent entity of a personality of a being. In Sanskrit, it is called as Pudgal. Pudgal means persons. Persons, whenever we say that there is a concept of persons, then there is a concept of permanent entity also. But here in Panyati, that is the designations of the 329 types of human personalities, they are based upon our Matikas also, with the help of 22 Tikmatikas, 100 Dukmatikas, and 42 Sutantmatikas, and with the help of our four reals, Chitta Chetsika Rup Nimban, they have been analyzed here. So, the literal meaning of Panyati is the descriptions of the designations or notions or the designations. There are so many terms which have been discussed in our text, but here it is just enumerations of the 329 types of persons. There are altogether 10 chapters which have been there, and in each chapter, a personality has been explained with different angles also, and with the examples also, what are the qualities, and with illustrations or similes also sometimes they are given here. So that is the samas. There are 10 names of the Buddha also. If you go through that, there are 9 names of the Buddha, like Itipiso Bhagava Arha Samma Sambuddho Vichacharan Sampanno Sugato Lokvidhi Purus Dhamma Sarati Itipiso Bhagava. So there are 9 epithets through which Buddha is known as the personality of the perfectly enlightened. Why he is called as Samma Sambuddha? Why he is called as Lokvidhu? Why he is called as Vichacharan Sampanno? Why he is called as Bhagava? So because of the qualities of these, he is named as a different personalities. So these personalities have been also discussed in the Puggal Panyati. Who can be a Samma Sambuddha, and what are the qualities of the Samma Sambuddha or perfectly enlightened persons? So these have been discussed, all the 329 types of personalities, they have been discussed or explained or enumerated. They have described with different angles, and altogether there are 10 chapters here. The next text which comes as a kathavatthu. Kathavatthu is considered as a 5th text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, traditionally, paramparik. But if you go through the chronological way, or chronologically, this text was composed at the time of the Third Buddhist Council, when Samrat or King Ashoka convened the Third Buddhist Council under the chairmanship of Venerable Mogliputra Tissathera. So when it was compiled in 321 BC, at the time of King Ashoka, then how it can be considered as a teachings of the Buddha, how it can be considered as one of the 7 texts of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So we had discussed earlier also when we were giving introduction of the Abhidhamma Pitaka, then we had discussed that there are 2 types of Buddha Vachana. When we are discussing the classification of the Buddha Vachana, then we had discussed that there are 2 types of Buddha Vachana, namely Buddha Bhasita and Buddha Anumodita. Buddha Bhasit is that type of teachings of the Buddha which were uttered by Buddha himself. And Buddha Anumodit are those types of preachings which were uttered or given by the disciples of the Buddha, and later they were responded by our Blessed One, the Buddha. And since they were responded by the Buddha, they are also considered as the teachings of the Buddha. So in the same way, we in the Majjhima Nikaya, we are having some of the suttas like Madhupindak Sutta or Mahakachyana Sutta. They are called as they were uttered by Mahakacchan or Sariputta. They were disciples of the Buddha, and later on they were responded by our the Blessed One Buddha, and they are considered as the teachings of the Buddha. So altogether there are 84,000 of skandhas. If altogether the Buddha Vachana we consider it, we had also discussed that how 84,000 have been considered. Out of the 84,000, 42 are considered as the teachings available in the Sutta and Vinaya, and 40,000 are belonging to this Abhidhamma Pitaka, the text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, and 2,000 are belonging to the disciples of the Buddha, which were the teachings which were uttered by the disciples, and later on they were responded by the Buddha also. So this is the our kathavatthu. So kathavatthu has also two terms, katha and vattu. Katha means discourses, vattu means base. The literal meaning of kathavatthu is the base of the discourses. The literal meaning is the base, but in technical sense, it is called as the debate. Because at the time of the Third Buddhist Council, there were debates among the heretics as well as Vibhajyavadins or Theravadins. Theravadins are also called as Vibhajyavadins. So there were 1,000 arguments which have been discussed or explained in Kathavatthu. 500 are in favor of Theravadins, and 500 arguments are in favor of our heretics, that is the Vitandavadins. So altogether there are 1,000 arguments which have been explained in 23 chapters in Kathavatthu. So here it is called as a method of debate. It is called as a method of debate in our this Kathavatthu. That Kathavatthu is the method of the discourses of the debate. And this method of, there is a dialogue in between our Kathavatthu. Kathavatthu is also considered as a text of logic and epistemology, because the debates which have been discussed in Kathavatthu, they are related with the logic. If you go through the Samanya Phalasutta, we also find that there is a debate in between the Buddha and six contemporary teachers also at the time of the Buddha. And when Ajatasattu, the king of Magadha, approaches to the Buddha in Samaya Phalasutta, and the method of debate which he discusses with the teachers, it is called as that in method of debate there are some rules and regulations, that how the questions can be put, how the logics and the reasoning. That is why sometimes it is called as Buddhism is a religion which discusses about the scientific reasoning and the logic, because all things which have been told by the Buddha, they are scientific and they have their own reasoning also. In Mahayana traditions also, we are having the text like Yukti Sastika, that is composed by Acharya Nagarjuna. So there also we are having the method of reasoning also. That what are the method of the reasoning? There are 60 ways of the reasoning which have been discussed by Acharya Nagarjuna in the Yukti Sastika, and later on Acharya Dinnag and Dharmakirti, they have composed some of the texts related with our logic and epistemology, like Praman Vartik and Praman Samuchaya. So here, this in Milinda Pahyo also, there is a dialogue in between Acharya Nagsen and King Milind also. And there is a method of debate also. So in Kathavatthu, there are 1,000 arguments which were discussed. So 500 arguments are in favor of Theravadins or Vibhajyavadins, and 500 arguments are in favor of our Vitandavadins or heretics. They have been explained in 23 chapters. Again, it is said that what is the proofness of Kathavatthu? How we can prove that Kathavatthu is the text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, or it was preached by the Buddha. So in defense of it, it is said that there are two types. There are two types of the mm, teachings of the Buddha. That one is the Matika, and there is the in another way there is the development of the Matika. So in the we have also 62 Abhidhamma Matikas and 42 Sutanta Matikas. For this Kathavattu, it has been also said that the Matikas were established by the Buddha himself, and the development of the Matikas were done by Mogliputra Tissathera and Acharya Buddha Ghosa in the commentary of the Dhammasangani, that is the Artha Salani. He says that a forecast was made by the Blessed One Buddha himself that after 213 years of my Mahaparinirvana or demise, there will be a monk who will compile a text in the shape of Nikaya. So it has been said by Acharya Buddha Ghosa that after 213 years, a monk will compile a text in the shape of Nikaya. So if you go through the shape or size of the Nikaya, Kathavattu, it is as similar to Nikaya also. So in the 18th chapter of our Nikaya, so there are 23 chapters of our Kathavattu. In Kathavattu, the first chapter is the Puggal Bagga. In Puggal Bagga, it has been said, the questions have been put by the heretics that whether there are Puggals in real, Sachikathena Puggalo Pulaptiti. Then our Theravadins or Vibhajyavadins, they say that there is no any concept of the permanent entity or Puggala. There is no any concept of Puggala. Then what is that Puggala? Then it is said that Puggal are here called as having the Panchakhandas. Panchakhandas are known as a Puggal here. Just like the parts of the chariot make a personality of a make a designation of the chariot, in the same way the five aggregates are also making a designation of the human personality. So this has been said in the first chapter. There are other chapters, and we are also aware that there were 18 sects or 18 schools of the Buddhist thoughts which were prevailing at the time of King Asoka. And these, out of the 18 sects, 11 were belonging to the Theravadins, Mahasangik, and 7 were belonging to the Theravadins. So altogether there are 18 types of Buddhist schools of thoughts which have been discussed. Although we do not find the names of the school in Kathavattu, but if you go through the commentary of the Kathavattu, that is the Kathavattu Atkatha, composed by Acharya Buddha Ghosa, then we find all the 18 schools of Buddhist sects which were prevailing at that time. The names have been given, and their philosophical thoughts have been also explained by Acharya Buddha Ghosh, and how they have been criticized, or they have been disapproved by our Theravadins or Vibhajyavadins. So this is the one way of in the kathavatthu. So detail has been discussed in a very detailed manner in kathavatthu. We are not going to discuss, but some of the scholars are also saying that this kathavatthu is the text which belongs to the Abhidhamma Pitaka, and Mogliput Tisather was just narrator of the Abhidhamma, just like the Sariputta, who was narrating the whole teachings of the Abhidhamma given by the Blessed One Buddha at Sankhya, when after preaching to his departed mother at Tavpinsaluka, he used to come at Sankhya, and he used to impart the teachings of the Abhidhamma to Sariputta, Dhammasenapati. And in the way Dhammasenapati was imparting to 500 monks in successive years in the same manner, Mogliputta Tisather was also narrating the whole Matikaj of our 7 texts of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So in that way, Mogliputta Tisather did not compile the text Kathavattu with his own knowledge, but he just narrated in the same manner what Sariputta was narrating at the time of the Blessed One Buddha. So we are not going to discuss all the 23 chapters of our Kathavattu, but in a very brief manner, it has been discussed. There are other concepts like Nibbana. There are concepts related with the householders. There are concepts related with the law of dependent originations. What are the thoughts of the Mahasangikas? What are the thoughts of the Lokuttar Vadins? They have been discussed in the 23 chapters of our Kathavattu. Kathavattu is considered as one of the texts which discusses about the logic and reasoning by the way of method of debates. So method of the debates have been also discussed in the Kathavattu. So this text has been very popular because some of the our thoughts have been also translated in other traditions of the thought, like Sarvastivada and other texts also. In Sarvastivada Abhidharma traditions also, we are also having 7 texts of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So this text was also compiled in that sense. Although in Sarvastivada traditions also, there is no any composure of the text, but all the texts are ascribed to the Blessed One, that is the Buddha. So this is the Kathavattu. And the last book, not last book, the 6th book of Abhidhamma Pitaka is called as Yamaka. Yamaka literally means yogma, that is the pair. That the 4 reals, Chitta Chetsika Rupa Nibbana, which have been analyzed in Vibhanga, Dhatu Katha, Pugalpayati, and again in the Kathavattu text also. They have been also analyzed in 10 chapters in Yamaka. And how these 4 reals, Chitta Chetsika Rupa Nibbana, they have been analyzed by the way of pair, that whenever any concept, the questions related with any concept is arising, there are 2 questions and there are 2 answers also. So it is called as a yogma, that is the pair. So in that sense, there are, so the first chapter is Mul Yamaka. In Mul Yamaka, all the original teachings of the Buddha, they have been compared with this help of the yogma, that is the pair. And altogether here there is a khanda yamaka, then dhatu yamaka, then ayatana yamaka. So altogether there are 10 chapters here. And in 10 chapters, all the details have been discussed in a brief manner. It is a very small book. The literal meaning of yamaka have been given by our acharyas. That is, the word yamaka has been made with the two words yam and kava. Yam means that is this process of repeated existence. Ka makes it a noun. So yamak is that which destroys or which removes or which dispels the our suffering, state of suffering also. Due to this, we are able to come in this process of repeated existence again and again. So in that sense, it is called as but T.W. Rhys Davids, who has translated this text in English, according to him, it is said that the text is very dry, uninteresting, and he has compared just like the 10 dry bones, just like if you see there are bones with no flesh, then the bones are looking very ugly. In the sense, this yamak is also called as very ugly, in that sense that it does not give any interest, any enthusiasm to go through the understanding of our real self. Only there is a quality of this text is that there are some of the meanings of the technical terms which have not been explained in our earlier text, like Dhammasangani, Vibhanga Dhatu Katha, Pugalpayati, kathavatthu. But here in Yamaka, the technical terms related with our teachings of the Buddha, they have been explained. And in that sense, it is called as Therasas of Abhidhamma. Therasas means that it is a small encyclopedia. It is a small encyclopedia of Buddhism, because in this small text, there is a meaning of the technical terms which have been briefly explained. So this is the quality of this text. So this yamaka has been discussed in a very detailed manner. I am not going to discuss all the 10 chapters of yamaka, but now we are coming to the last text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, that is called as patthana, pakarda. There are two words also in patthana, that is the pa plus thana. There are two words. Here pa is the prefix, tha, thana. Here than is the, in Sanskrit it is called as the asthana, and pra, here pa in Pali it is in Sanskrit. If you exactly translate it in Sanskrit, it will be prasthana. So the definition of this patthana has been given: padhanam thanam ti patthanam, that where the principle or the imminent causes have been explained, this text is called as patthana. There is another pa plus thana, that where there are 24 types of relations or the pachayas which have been discussed. This is called as patthana. Again, in the Satipatthana Sutta, the literal meaning of patthana has been given, because sati patthana. Here, than is in the sense of presence. That where there is the presence of the 424 types of causes and conditions, this text is called as patthana. So there are so many meanings of the patthana which have been given. But here, when we are discussing about the seventh text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, it is the place of the imminent causes or explanations of the principal or imminent causes which have been done in this text. So, man is a composition of the Panchakhandhas, namely Rupa Skandha, Vedana Skandha, Sanya Skandha, Sankara Skandha, Vijnana Skandha. In another way, man is a composition of Dwadasa Ayatana, that is the 12 bases. In another way of classification, a man is a composition of 18 elements. But coming to Abhidhamma traditions, man is a composition of Chit, Chetasik, and Rupa. And Chit and Chetasik, both these two are making the term Nama. Again, in the Dhammasangani, there is a question that tat kathamam namam, that there, what is the nama? Here, nam, literal meaning of nam is namati iti namam, that which leans towards the object is called as nama. But here it is in the sense of nam, in technical sense, when we are discussing by the way of our Abhidhamma, then this nam is the conglomeration of the 4 khandas, namely Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhar Khanda, and Vijnana Khanda. If you see, if you will enumerate Vedana Khanda 1, Sanya Khanda 1, Sankhar are 50. Altogether, there are 52 types of psychic factors or mental factors. And Vijnanas are 89 or 121 types of consciousness or the chitta. So in that sense, it is called as a chitta and chetasika, because chitta and chetasika are further analyzed as a Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhar Khanda, and Vijnana Khanda. And Rup Khanda is another material quality. So here, Nam is conscious, or mind is conscious. The matter is unconscious. Mind catches the object, because alamban chinteti chittam vijanati yatto. That consciousness is that which thinks of an object. In that sense, it catches the object. Every sense has its capacity to catch its respective object. In the same manner, our this Chetsikas are those dhammas which arise and seize on the same object and on the same base also. And they are 52 in number. So it has been defined in Abhidhamma Sangaho by Acharya Anuruddha, Ekupad Nirodhacha, Eka Laman Vathuka, Cheto Yuta Dupayas Chetsika Mata, that the psychic factors or the mental factors, which are 52 in number, they arise and the seize on the same object and on the same base also. So this is our Chetsikas, or and it is called as anarammana. It does not catch the object, but still it is there is a happy functioning of mind and matter. Whenever there is a cut on the body, there is a bleeding also, and our mind is also being disturbed by that. Whenever we are going on the road in scorchy heat also, our mind becomes due to this scorchy heat, the body also is being affected. And when body is being affected, our mind is also being disturbed by that. And we are having some headaches also. How there is a relations in between that. Whenever we are going on the road also, we see any temple or monastery, we put salutations to the temple or the image of the Buddha in the temple also. Who ask our hands to stretch their hands and put salutations to the Blessed One or the image of the Buddha. Whenever there is a wish to move on the road, automatically our legs are in a state of moving. So mind, the thinking is happening in our mind that I wish to take a drink, I wish to move on the road. But how the things are, the parts of the human body are also working together. So it is seen that there is a happy functioning between mind and matter. There is a close relationship between the Chitta Chetsik and the Roop also. In other systems of Indian philosophy, like Sankhya philosophy, there is also happy functioning between the mind and matter. Here, mind is the Purusha and matter is called as Prakriti. But still, there is a happy functioning, there is a happy relationship between the Purusha and Prakriti. So, Sankhya philosophers explains the relations between mind and matter on the analogy of the Purusha and Prakriti. And in another way, they are giving an example of blind and the lame persons. Just like blind gives the support to the our lame persons, in the same persons, lame persons also seeks help from the blind persons. So both are having the close relations. In the same manner, our mind and matter are also having the close relations also. So there are 24 types of relations which have been discussed in the Patthana Pakarana. That is the last text of Abhidhamma Pitaka. This text is very much voluminous. There are 6 volumes. Each volume contains more than 400 pages. And in that way, there are more than 2,400 pages in Patthana Pakarana. So there are 9 ways of explaining, and with the help of Tik Matika, Duk Matika, and Pahya Puchaka. And there are 22 Tik Matika, 100 Duk Matika, 42 Sutat Matikas. All these, the relationship between Chit, Chetsik, and Rupa, they have been explained. And for explaining all these, there are 3 terms which have been discussed, like Pachay Dhamma, Pachayupanna Dhamma, and Pachay Dhamma. So there are 3 terms here. Pachay Dhamma, Pachayupanna Dhamma, and Pachay. There are 3 terms which is. So we can understand it through an example also. Suppose there is a teacher and there is a taught, there is a students also. So teacher is Pachay Dhamma and Pachayupanna Dhamma is a student. And there is a relationship between teacher and our student that is called as a teachership. And this teachership is called as Pachay or relations. So here relations is, or the conditions have been explained as Upkara Kathena Pachayo. That Pachayas or relations are in the sense of rendering service. Hetus are, we have also seen that in arising of any state, there are 3 stages, Uppad, Thiti, and Bhanga, arising, staying, or establishing, and decaying. So there are 3 stages in that, any state which refers to state. And whatever the things in the law of dependent originations, we have already seen that in the law of dependent originations, there are 12 types of law of dependent originations from avijja to jati, pachaya, jaramarana. So these 12 links are also called as philosophical foundations of the law of our theory of relations also. So these 12 types of law of dependent originations are philosophically expounded or developed to the theory of relations also. There is another example also. Suppose there is a baby, there is a mother, and there is a so the relations between mother and baby is called as the our daughtership, and mother is here called as Dhamma and Paschayupanna Dhamma. Paschayupanna Dhammas are those Dhammas which are arising based upon the Paschay Dhamma. So, based upon the teacher and based upon our mother, there is the concept of the students as well as the Beijing. And the relations in between these two are called as here. So there are 24 types of relations or the Pachayas which have been discussed in the Patthana Pakarana in a very detailed manner. So relations between minor matter, or in another way, relations between Chit, Chetas, and Rupa, they have been done in the Patthana Pakarana. I am not going to discuss all these things in a detailed manner, but one or two examples I will give you for the Pachayas. Suppose there are 24 Pachayas: Hetu Pachay, Alamman Pachaya, Anantar Pachay, Adipati Pachay, Samanantar Pachay, Indriya Pachay, Ithi Pachay, Vipak Pachay, Avigata Pachay, Vigata Pachay, so Jhana Pachay. There are 24 types of Pachayas which have been explained, or 7 Pachayas. So these 24 types of Pachayas, all the three Pachay Dhamma, Pachay Upanna Dhamma, and Pachay, they have been explained, and the 4 reals, namely Chitta Chetsika Roop, and the relations between Chitta Chetsik and the Roop, how they have been done, they have been discussed. So suppose first Pachay is called as Hetu Pachay. Hetus are here in the sense of roots. That is the Mula Thena Hetu. That Hetus are in the sense of root. There are 6 kinds of roots, namely Lobha Dosa Moha, Alobha Dosa Moha. Based upon these 6 kinds of roots, there are 6 kinds of consciousness which are arising, like Lobha Sahagata Chitta or Alobha Sahagata Chitta. And if there is Alobha, there is non-greediness, then there will be a rising of the consciousness. Then that consciousness is called as Dhana Chitta. Whenever there is a Lobha, Sahagata Chitta, that is the, you can say, greedy consciousness, then there will be a rising of taking the things or stealing the things, taking the things which have not been given to you. That is the Adinna Dana. That we take the things which have not been given to you. This is called as stealing the things. So how it develops? So suppose a beggar comes, or a monk or bhikkhu comes at the door of any house, and a boy comes from inside the house, and he sees that a bhikkhu has come at the door of the house, and he has the consciousness. There is the arising of the consciousness to give something to that bhikkhu or monk. Here there is the arising of Dan Sahagata Chitta, and he goes inside the house, he takes something and he gives it to the bhikkhu. So this is called, and the relations in between, this Lobha, Sagata Chitta, and our Alobha and the Dan, this is called as Hetu Pachay. That is why it is called as Hetu Samputkanam Cha Dhammanam Rup Samuthanam Hetu Pachayena Pachayo. That based upon the Hetu or any six kinds of the root, if there is any root or material qualities which arises along with that consciousness, and the relationship in between these two is called as Hetu Pachay. So this is the Hetu. Another example of the Alamban Pachay, for the sake of understanding, Alamban, there are six kinds of Alambana, that is the objects, namely Chakhu, Sot, Ghan, Jihva, Kai, and Mana. These are the six senses. And based upon the six senses, there are six objects Alambana also, namely Rupa, Sad, Gandh, Rasa, Potabba, and Dhammayatana. So, how these six objects Alambana are arising. Suppose one example which have been given, that by seeing an image of the Buddha, if there is the arising of the consciousness to pay salutations to the image of the Buddha, this is called as Alamban Pachaya. Yam yam alambanam avruddha yena chitta chetsika upajaya tam samuthanam rupam upajaya tam pachayoti alamman pachayo. So it is said that any kinds of the objects, based upon that, if any consciousness arises to perform our duty, this is called as Alamban Pachay. So based upon only objects. In the same way, other Pachayas have been also called, like Adhipati. Adhipati means that exercising dominant influence. Dominant influence means Indra Thena Adhipati, that which exercise dominant influence. So here, whenever the Pachay Dhamma, which exercises dominant influence on the Pachayupanna Dhamma, then the relations in between the Pachay Dhamma and Pachayupanna Dhamma is called as Adhipati Pachay. And the example of the Adhipati Pachay has been given, that suppose a truck driver is moving on the road also, and he sees a banner of a shop, wine shop, and whenever he sees that wine is available here, he just stops the truck and he gets down from the truck. He goes to the shop, he buys the wine and he drinks it. So there are two things here. That Pache Dhamma is our there. So here Pache Dhamma is our wine shop, and Pachayupanna Dhamma is the consciousness which arises to take wine from the wine shop. So this relationship in between that Pachay Dhamma and Pachayupanna Dhamma is called as our Adhipati Pachay, that which exercises dominant influence on that. Another example which has been given, that Siddhartha Gautam renounced his household life in search of truth. So here truth is the thing which exercises dominant influence on the Siddhartha Gautama. And then in search of truth, Siddhartha Gautama renounces household life. So here truth is the Pachay Dhamma, and he renounces the household life, Nekhamma, that is Neskarma, a consciousness which arises to renounce the household life in search of the truth. this is called as Pachoipanadhamma. And in between these two, there is the relations or the Pachay, which is called as Adhipati Pachay. So there are 24 types of Pachayas. I am not going to discuss all the 24 types of Pachayas. It will take much time. So these 24 types of Pachayas, they have been discussed with the help of Tikmatika, Dukmatika, and Sutantamattika. The main purpose of explaining the relations between the Chitta Chetsik and the Roop. In another way, the relations between mind and matter. How the relations between mind and matter have been explained in Abhidhamma traditions that has been discussed in the text of Patthana Pakarana, the last and the seventh book of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So this is our last text, and this text is very important. And it is said that when Buddha got enlightenment at the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, for the 7 days, 1 week, he remembered all the 7 texts of Abhidhamma Pitaka. And when he was realizing the truth of the Patthana Pakarana, then all the 7 rays from his body emitted. So that has been nicely explained by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in the text Ath Salini, the commentary of Dhammasangani. So this is the very important text and very profound text also. And it discusses about the relations between mind and matter, or the relations between Chetasik and Rupa, how in Theravada traditions, based upon the Pali literature, how the relations between mind and matter has been explained. We can have a glance of going through the text of Patthana Pakarana. So let us stop here.